Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mufasa's book readings. My name is Julia, and I am your reader for the day. We still on our book, the newly introduced book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Today, we're moving on to the last section of part 1, which is titled The 7 Habits, an Overview. It starts off with a quote by Aristotle. The quote reads, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. I'll start with the reading. Our character basically is a composite of our habits. Sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. The maxim goes, habits are powerful factors in our lives. Because they are consistent, often unconscious patterns, they constantly, daily express our character and produce our effectiveness or ineffectiveness. As Horace Mann, the great educator, once said, habits are like a cable. We weave a strand of it daily, every day, and soon it cannot be broken. I personally do not agree with the last part of his expression. I know they can be broken. Habits can be learned and unlearned. But I also know it isn't a quick fix. It involves a process and a tremendous commitment. Those of us who watched the lunar voyage of Apollo 11 were transfixed as we saw the first man walk on the moon and return to Earth. Superlatives such as fantastic and incredible were inadequate to describe those eventful days. But to get there, those astronauts literally had to break out of the tremendous gravity pull of the Earth. More energy was spent in the first few minutes of the liftoff, in the first few miles of travel, than was used over the next several days to travel 500,000 miles. Habits too have tremendous gravity pull, more than most people realize or would admit. Breaking deeply embedded habitual tendencies such as procrastination, impatience, criticalness, or selfishness that violates basic principles of human effectiveness involves more than a little willpower and a few minor changes in our lives. A lift-off takes a tremendous effort, but once we break the gravity pull, our freedom takes on a whole new dimension. Like any natural force, gravity pull can work with us or against us. The gravity pull of some of our habits may currently be keeping us from going where we want to go. But it is also gravity pull that keeps our world together, and that keeps the planets in their orbits and our universe in order. It is a powerful force, and if we use it effectively, we can use the gravity pull of habit to create cohesiveness and order necessary to establish effectiveness in our lives. This next section that I'm going to read is titled Habits Defined. For our purposes, we will define a habit as the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. Knowledge is the theoretical paradigm, the what to do and the why. Skill is the how to do, and desire is the motivation, the want to do. In order to make something a habit in our lives, we have to have all three. I may be ineffective in my interactions with my work associates, my spouse, or my children, because I constantly tell them what I think. but I never really listen to them. Unless I search out correct principles of human interaction, I may not even know I need to listen. Even if I do know that in order to interact effectively with others, I need to listen to them, I may not have the skill. I may I may not know how to really listen deeply to another person, but knowing I need to listen and knowing how to listen is not enough unless I want to listen. Unless I have the desire, it won't be a habit in my life. Creating a habit requires work in all three dimensions. The being or seeing change is an upward process. Being changing seeing, which in turn changes being, and so forth, as we move in an upward spiral of growth. By working on the knowledge, skill, and desire, we can break through to new levels of personal and interpersonal effectiveness as we break with old paradigms that may have been a source of pseudo security for years. It's sometimes a painful process. It's a change that has to be motivated by a higher purpose, the willingness to subordinate what you think you want now for what you want later. But this process produces happiness, the object and design of our existence. Happiness can be defined, in part at least, as the fruit of the desire and the ability to sacrifice what we want now for what we want eventually. The next section that I'm going to read is titled The Maturity Continuum. The 7 habits are not a set of separate or piecemeal psych-up formulas. In harmony with the natural laws of growth, they provide an incremental, sequential, highly integrated approach to the development of personal and interpersonal effectiveness. They move us progressively on a maturity continuum from dependence to independence to interdependence. We each begin life as an infant, totally dependent on others. We are directed, nurtured, and sustained by others. Without this nurturing, we would only live for a few hours or for a few days at most. Then gradually, over the ensuing months and years, we become more and more independent, physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially, until eventually we can essentially take care of ourselves, becoming inner directed and self-reliant. As we continue to grow and mature, we become increasingly aware that all of nature is interdependent, that there is an ecological system that governs nature, including society. We further discover that the higher reaches of our nature have to do with our relationships with others, that human life is also interdependent. Our growth from infancy to adulthood is in accordance with natural law, and there are many dimensions to growth. Reaching our full physical maturity, for example, does not necessarily assure us of simultaneous emotional or mental maturity. On the other hand, a person's physical dependence does not mean that he or she is mentally or emotionally immature. On the maturity continuum, dependence is the paradigm of you. You take care of me. You come through for me. You didn't come through. I blame you for the results. Independence is the paradigm of I. I can do it. I am responsible. I am self-reliant. I can choose. Interdependence is the paradigm of we. We can do it. We can cooperate. We can combine our talents and abilities and create something greater. Dependent people need others to get what they want. Independent people can get what they want through their own effort. Independent people combine their own efforts with the efforts of others to achieve their greatest success. If I were physically independent, paralyzed or disabled or limited in some physical way, I would need you to help me. If I were emotionally dependent, my sense of worth and security would come from your opinion of me. If you didn't like me, it could be devastating. If I were intellectually dependent, I would count on you to do my thinking for me, to think through the issues and problems of my life. If I were independent physically, I could pretty well make it on my own. Mentally, I could think on my own thoughts. I could move from one level of abstractions to another. I could think creatively and analytically and organize and express my thoughts in understandable ways. If emotionally, I would be validated from within. I would be inner directed. My sense of worth would not be a function of being liked or treated well. It's easy to see that interdependent is much more mature than dependence. Independence is a major achievement in and of itself, but independence is not supreme. That is where today's reading will end. I think what I really took out of today's reading is the fact that the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desires is habits. So with our habits, we can see that a lot of things are affected in our lives. And with procrastination, I think a lot of us may relate to this, because it is our habits that really determine the outcome of the things that we would achieve in our lives. And I think that was, with this reading, it really enforced that fact that I need to just really be aware of habits and how is it that they can really affect my life in the future, and not just thinking about a habit with now like saying that, okay, let me just quickly listen to music, then I'll do this later, but just really actually realizing that, no, I need to do this now, and I can listen to music later because this is affecting my life right now. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's reading. Thank you so much for joining me and tuning in. I would really like to engage with you on the comment section. So if you have any thoughts that you'd like to share, I'd really appreciate that. You can find this video on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.